Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a landmark deal between OpenAI and AMD. And trust me, this isn't just about chips. It's a partnership that's fundamentally reshaping the future of artificial intelligence.
No, the AI revolution, it feels like it's moving at light speed, right? But for all the incredible things happening in software, the entire industry is slamming headfirst into a massive physical wall.
And what's the problem? Well, it all boils down to one thing: a global shortage of the one resource AI models crave more than anything: raw computing power. There just aren't enough of the specialized chips needed to keep up. And listen, this isn't some problem for the future. No way. OpenAI's president, Greg Brockman, he's on the record saying this is happening right now. The chip shortage is so bad, it's actively stopping them from releasing new features that would be making them money today. So, what do you do when you're facing a problem that could literally stop your growth in its tracks? Well, if you're OpenAI, you make a massive move, striking a multi-billion-dollar deal with the chipmaker AMD. Okay, let's get into what this actually looks like. And when I say massive, I mean the numbers are just staggering. OpenAI has committed to deploying 6 gigawatts of AMD's Instinct GPUs. That's an amount of computing power that's honestly hard to even wrap your head around. Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. This isn't just OpenAI writing a huge check. Nope. A core part of this deal is that AMD has issued OpenAI a warrant, which is basically an option to buy up to 160 million of its shares. So what does that actually mean? Well, here's the kicker. If OpenAI uses that option, it could end up owning 10% of AMD. Think about that. Not just a customer, but a major shareholder in one of the most important semiconductor companies on the planet. This is way more than a deal. It's a full-blown alliance. And you gotta understand, this isn't a quick fix. We're talking about a long-term play here. The first gigawatt of these chips won't even be up and running until the second half of 2026. After that, it's all about scaling up, and the deal covers multiple future generations of AMD's hardware. So that begs the question, right? Why would these two absolute giants make such a huge, tangled bet on each other? Well, it really all comes down to what each of them desperately needs to win the AI race. And when you lay it all out, it's this perfectly balanced win-win situation. For OpenAI, it's pretty simple. They need a ton of computing power, and they desperately need to stop relying so much on just one company, NVIDIA. And for AMD, man, this is the golden ticket. It's their chance to go toe-to-toe with the top dog, NVIDIA, with the biggest name in AI right there in their corner. And you can hear it straight from OpenAI's Greg Brockman. He doesn't see this as just another business deal. For him, this is absolutely core to their mission. It's what they have to do to get AI into the hands of, well, everyone. And on the other side, you've got AMD's CEO, Lisa Su, saying the exact same thing. She's calling it a true win-win, and framing it as something that's not just good for them, but for the entire AI industry. Of course, a deal this big is gonna make waves. And let me tell you, Wall Street felt the shockwaves almost instantly. The reaction was, well, it was pretty dramatic and very, very telling. You could see the market's verdict right here. The moment this was announced, AMD's stock just exploded, up almost 24%. And NVIDIA, the undisputed king of AI chips, their stock took a small hit. The message from investors was crystal clear. There's a real challenger in the arena now. But, and this is super important, you have to see this move in the context of a bigger chess game. This isn't OpenAI dropping NVIDIA. Just 2 weeks before this AMD deal, they announced an even bigger $100 billion deal with NVIDIA. So what's really going on? They're not picking one over the other. They're building out a powerful, multi-supplier foundation for the future. But when you step back and look at all these deals together, something else, something much bigger starts to come into focus. We're actually watching a brand new kind of economy being built right before our very eyes. Yeah, analysts are starting to call it the AI circular economy. And what is that? It's basically a closed loop where a small club of tech giants are just trading money, ownership stakes, and hardware among themselves to power this whole AI revolution. Here's a simple way to think about it. You've got OpenAI at the center, and they need a mind-boggling amount of compute. So NVIDIA, and now AMD, sell them the chips. But get this, NVIDIA also invests back into OpenAI, giving them money to buy, you guessed it, more NVIDIA chips. Then you have other players like Broadcom coming in to make custom chips, and Oracle building the actual data centers to put everything in. It's all connected. And this whole circular system is funding a build-out on a scale that is just hard to comprehend. I mean, just between these recent deals with NVIDIA and AMD, OpenAI has committed something like $1 trillion to new infrastructure. $1 trillion in just a couple of weeks. So you have this incredibly powerful, self-fueling system that's making AI grow at an unbelievable rate. But it does make you wonder, right? It's so tightly interconnected, it raises a really critical question. In an ecosystem where everyone depends on everyone else, what happens if just one of those links in the chain starts to break?
All right, let's talk about a deal that's, well, it's not just big, it's huge. We're talking about a moment that could literally shape the future of tech. AMD and OpenAI have teamed up for what might just be the most ambitious AI project ever. Let's just jump right in with a number. 6 gigawatts. Just let that sink in for a second. That is a truly mind-boggling amount of power. We're talking enough to power millions of homes. And that single number, it's at the very heart of this entire story. Why that number? Well, because 6 gigawatts is basically the answer to a huge question. What does it really take to power the future of artificial intelligence? You know, the kind of world-changing AI everyone's talking about? It all comes down to the raw power, the electricity, the sheer computing muscle you need to build and run these next-gen models. And the answer, no surprise, involves a partnership between two absolute titans of the industry. I mean, you've got the company that's defining the cutting edge of hardware, meeting the company that's defining the cutting edge of AI. It's a perfect storm. So here's the headline. AMD and OpenAI are officially in a multi-year, multi-generation strategic partnership. And you really got to pay attention to those words, multi-year and multi-generation. This is not some simple one-off purchase, no way. This is a deep, long-term commitment. They're literally building the foundation for AI for years, maybe even decades to come. Okay, so a deal this massive, what does it actually look like when you peel back the layers? Let's get into the specifics. It's time to break this thing down by the numbers. And you know, this isn't some fuzzy, far-off dream. The wheels are already turning. The ink is barely dry on this announcement, and they're already planning the first phase. The initial 1 gigawatt deployment, which, by the way, is a monster project all on its own, is kicking off in the second half of 2026. From there, they're just going to scale it all the way up to that crazy 6 gigawatt number. So what's the engine at the heart of this giant AI power plant? Well, it's all AMD hardware. We're talking specifically about their Instinct MI450 Series GPUs. But here's the really crucial part. The deal covers future generations of chips too. See, OpenAI isn't just buying today's tech. They're placing a huge bet on what AMD is going to create tomorrow. But the way this deal is put together is, well, it's pretty clever. It's not just a straightforward sale. And that brings us to our next big number, 160 million. What's that? That's how many AMD shares OpenAI now has the right to buy as part of this whole thing. So how does that work? It's done with something called a stock warrant. And if you're wondering what that is, it's pretty simple, really. It's a contract that gives OpenAI the right to buy AMD stock at a fixed price. But, and this is key, only if they hit certain milestones together. It's a brilliant way to tie their futures together. Basically, if they hit their goals, everybody wins. And for AMD, the financial side of this is just staggering. We're talking about a partnership that's expected to bring in tens of billions of dollars in revenue. This is a massive win that really cements their spot right at the front of the AI hardware race. So you can see, right? This is so much more than just a company buying stuff from another company. It's a real, deeply connected partnership. It's a true win-win, and it's built to last. And when you look at it, you see why it's such a perfect match. You've got AMD over here, who are absolute world-class leaders in high-performance computing. They build the engines. Then you have OpenAI, the pioneers in generative AI. They're designing the car. It's the ultimate combination of hardware muscle and software genius. And hey, don't just take my word for it. The leaders of both companies are saying the exact same thing. AMD CEO, the amazing Dr. Lisa Su, she called it the world's most ambitious AI build-out. She stressed that it's all about bringing the best of both worlds together. And on the other side, you've got OpenAI CEO Sam Altman. He points out that this is really about one thing, building the sheer compute power they need to make their vision for AI a reality. You know, they have these huge, ambitious ideas, and this deal, this is the power that's going to bring them to life. Okay, so let's zoom out for a second. Let's look past the money and the tech specs. What does this really mean for the future of AI? Well, it means everything. This is about powering the future of AI, period. I mean, what we're witnessing here is the digital equivalent of pouring the concrete foundation for a skyscraper. This is the infrastructure. The next generation of AI, it's going to be built right on top of this. So what does this new foundation actually let us do? Well, for starters, it's about meeting the world's absolutely exploding demand for AI. It's going to enable AI deployments on a scale we've just never even imagined before. It's going to accelerate the entire field of high-performance computing, and the goal here is to lift up the whole AI ecosystem. And what does that mean for you and me? It means getting the benefits of advanced AI into everyone's hands a whole lot faster. And there's a quote from OpenAI's president, Greg Brockman, that just nails it. He said, "Building the future of AI requires deep collaboration across every layer of the stack." And he's so right, from the actual silicon chip all the way up to the AI model itself. And that is exactly what this partnership is all about. So in the end, what we have here is AMD and OpenAI building an engine of truly unprecedented power, a 6-gigawatt engine for the future of intelligence. This partnership is building that engine, and it leaves us with just one huge question. What's going to happen when they finally turn the key?
All right, let's talk about the massive deal that just sent absolute shockwaves through the tech world and Wall Street. We're talking about the chip giant AMD and the AI powerhouse OpenAI. This new partnership has kicked off a total frenzy, so we're going to break down exactly what's going on, why everyone's so excited, and what it all means. In just 1 week, that's how much AMD's stock shot up. Now, a jump that huge doesn't just happen out of nowhere. It's a massive signal from the market that something absolutely monumental just went down. So, what was the catalyst?
And there you have it. The reason for all the chaos was this landmark partnership with OpenAI. But look, this isn't just another business deal. This is a strategic move that could seriously shake up the entire AI hardware game, which, as you know, has been dominated by one company for a long, long time.
Okay, first up, let's dive into AMD's massive AI deal. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty of what this partnership actually looks like. So, this whole thing really boils down to two main parts. First, OpenAI is committing to buy a frankly enormous amount of hardware. We're talking 6 gigawatts of AI chip capacity over the next 5 years. But the part that really made my jaw drop is the warrants. OpenAI gets the option to buy up to 160 million AMD shares for a strike price of just 1 penny. Yeah, 1 cent. This basically ties their fortunes together. If OpenAI succeeds, AMD's stock is going to feel it. Next up, Wall Street's bullish reaction. As you can probably guess, a deal of this size set off some serious fireworks with the analysts, and the reaction was, well, pretty much immediate. The response was instant and honestly overwhelming. We're not just talking about a couple of positive articles here. This was a full-on chorus of analysts rushing to upgrade their ratings and outlook on AMD. It was a stampede. And just look at these numbers. This tells the whole story. Jefferies nearly doubled its price target, jumping from $170 all the way up to $300. Stifel, Bank of America, Truist, they all followed suit with huge increases. And everyone is screaming buy. This is what a tidal wave of optimism looks like in a table.
And to put a dollar figure on all of that optimism, analyst Ming-Chi Kuo predicts this deal could generate tens of billions in annual revenue for AMD. I mean, that is an absolutely game-changing number for any company, even for a giant like AMD.
So with all this hype, all this excitement, you'd think it was a slam dunk, a unanimous celebration, right? Well, is everyone really jumping on the bandwagon? And that brings us to our third section, Oppenheimer's cautious stance. Because amidst all the cheering, there's one major firm that's kind of pumping the brakes. And this really lays out the tension perfectly. You've got pretty much the rest of Wall Street with a big flashing buy sign, and then you have Oppenheimer just holding steady with its perform rating, which is basically their way of saying, meh, we're neutral. They're not saying it's a bad deal, but they're definitely not ready to pop the champagne just yet. So why the hesitation? Well, here's their reasoning. Oppenheimer is basically saying, show us the money. They're waiting for more concrete proof of how this deal is actually going to impact AMD's revenue and profits before they jump in. It's a classic case of wanting to see the numbers before joining the party. All right, section 4, breaking down the numbers. So let's actually look at the figures that are driving both all this excitement and, of course, Oppenheimer's caution.
I'm not exaggerating when I say this. The potential value of this deal is absolutely staggering. And once you see the scale we're talking about, you'll understand why most analysts are so incredibly bullish.
So get ready for this. According to the estimates, the hardware value is more than $15 billion per gigawatt. Now remember, OpenAI is buying 6 gigawatts. The potential value here is almost hard to wrap your head around.
So you might be asking, how in the world do you get to a number that massive? Well, it starts with the price of each individual chip. The average selling price for one of these high-end AI GPUs is somewhere between $22,000 and $24,000. Yeah, these are not your average gaming graphics cards. And then you've got the other huge number, 160 million. That's how many shares OpenAI can potentially get through those warrants we talked about. And this is the part that really locks the two companies together. If AMD's tech powers OpenAI's growth, that success will directly pump up AMD's stock value. It's a brilliant synergy.
And finally, our last section, what this means for AMD. Let's pull back, zoom out, and look at the real big picture takeaways from this landmark agreement.
So what do we take away from all this? First, this deal officially puts AMD on the map as a major competitor in the high-end AI chip space. It creates a real alternative. It also gives them a steady, multi-year revenue stream across several new product generations, with the MI450 systems scheduled for late 2026. But, and this is a big but, echoing Oppenheimer's point, the exact financial impact, while everyone expects it to be huge, isn't fully clear just yet.
And that leaves us with the big question, doesn't it? This partnership is without a doubt a massive win for AMD. But is this the moment AMD officially enters a new era as an AI titan? Or is Oppenheimer's caution a smart warning about the very real risks and uncertainties that still lie ahead? That is what the entire market is waiting to find out.